The end of Across the Spider-Verse is shocking, questionable, and abnormal. I've watched hundreds of movies and it truly is a one of a kind. But what makes this movie's ending different from any other movie? First of all, the ending of Spider-Verse 2 is shocking because it is so unexpected. The audience has been following the journey of Miles Morales throughout the 2-hour and 16-minute film. We've come to care about Miles and we want to see him succeed, and we're not prepared for the finale's plot twist. The stunning end means the shock value of the cliffhanger is pretty high. Shock value is the potential of any form of communication to provoke a reaction or sharp negative emotion. It can be used in a variety of ways to attract attention or provoke thought, and although it's a powerful tool, it's really important to use it carefully. The cliffhanger in Across the Spider-Verse has shock value because it comes completely out of left field and engages a response. The audience is expecting a satisfying ending to the film, but instead we're left with a number of unanswered questions. Some of the questions that are left unanswered include: who is the true villain of the movie? The Spot is introduced at the beginning of the story and right away is set up as the main antagonist for Miles, but he isn't seen or included at all in the end of the movie. Besides the Spot, one character that does become a rising threat for Miles is Miguel O'Hara. Spider-Man 2099 antagonizes Miles for a majority of the movie, meaning the question of who is the true villain is left open for now. Another unanswered question is, what is the deal with the Spot? We're given a brief origin story for the character and his reasons for wanting revenge against Miles. But then the Spot disappears for the second half of the movie. What is he up to? Where has he been this whole time? The ending doesn't give us any answers. A big unanswered question is what will happen to Gwen and the other Spider people. We're introduced to hundreds of versions of Spider-Man in this movie, and Gwen plays a significant role in this story. When trying to protect Miles in the end, she reunites with some familiar characters from Into the Spider-Verse. The movie then suddenly ends, so we don't know what's going to happen to them. But the average movie doesn't usually end so suddenly. So what makes Spider-Verse 2 unique? The narrative model for film is typically built using a 3-act structure. Act 1 is the introduction of the story. It introduces the characters, the setting, and the conflict. Act 2 is the development of the story. It raises the stakes of the conflict and introduces new challenges for the characters. And Act 3 brings the conflict to a close and resolves the story's main themes. In other words, resolution. This is where the final scenes leave the audience with a sense of closure. And instead of resolution, the end of Spider-Verse 2 leaves you with something else: desire. Desire is a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen, which is a really powerful emotion. Here are some great examples of sequels that ended on cliffhangers of desire. The classic example is The Empire Strikes Back. Evil Darth Vader reveals at the end that he is the father of hero Luke Skywalker, in what's considered one of the biggest plot twists in cinema. A more recent example would be The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. Peeta almost kills Katniss, and the two are left broken as the war with the Capitol starts to really ramp up. And one of the most shocking cliffhangers happened at the end of Avengers Infinity War. Some of our favorite heroes dissolve into dust after the villain Thanos is victorious and wiping out half the universe. Just like that. Now, none of these examples end with the words "to be continued" on the end of the screen, but the feeling you're left with is the same. It's desire. You want answers. You want a resolution. And the creative people in charge of these projects didn't give you that. But they did it on purpose. Let me explain. Every example I gave you is part of a trilogy or series that tells one large story across multiple films. Imagine if you had a production company and you're thinking of ways to make your work stand out. You would need a strategy to keep people engaged over a long period of time. The strategy behind Across the Spider-Verse is to make an incredible sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, which they absolutely accomplished. But the end goal isn't to copy and paste the first movie onto the second. Historically speaking, sequels never do as well as the original in terms of revenue and critical success. So that means Across the Spider-Verse needs to grab audiences' attention, and at the same time build hype for the third movie that's already in the works. What's a really great way to do that? Create an unforgettable cliffhanger. The strategy is definitely working because people cannot stop talking about this movie. Whether it's good reviews or bad reviews or just confused reviews, everyone has something to say about it, which creates more attention right now and more hype for the future. Personally, I love the ending for Spider-Verse 2 because it subverts your expectations. Subvert is just a fancy way of saying to undercut the power of an established system, but I think that word perfectly describes everything we've talked about so far. Because of social media and the internet, everyone loves to make predictions or fan theories about what's going to happen before the movie even comes out. So while the whole world was expecting certain things to happen or certain characters to do X, Y, or Z, the creative team broke tradition, and I just love the effect it had. I could not stop thinking about this movie for weeks after I saw it. I have a whole separate video talking about why I think this movie is pretty much perfect, which you can watch later after this video. But the ending really stuck with me because it was so unpredictable. You almost never see the words "to be continued" as the final screen for a film. Maybe a TV show, but rarely ever for a movie. As someone who watches a ton of movies, it's refreshing to have my expectations crumbled up and thrown out the window. I just wanted to sit and go, wow, I'm in shock right now. That was awesome. Give me more. There's just not a lot of films out there with such a strong level of impact, and that is why the ending is such a big deal. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks to my Patreon members for supporting this channel. Y'all are awesome. Watch another video by tapping on your screen, and I'll see y'all later.